Hello, friends. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Why don't you go down, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss any episodes. For my fans and subscribers, welcome back. Thank you for the patronage. Today I'm going to talk about Daniel and the golden statue. Yeah, that golden statue, the one that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said no. And because they said no, according to the story, they were thrown into the fiery furnace by Nebuchadnezzar. Now remember, this story never actually happened. So most of us have heard this story, so I'm going to give an abbreviated version here. King Nebuchadnezzar makes a golden statue of himself and commands all of his subjects to bow down to it when they hear the music. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fail to bow down to it, whereupon they are taken to the king. The king asks them why they have not bowed down, and they say, "We cannot bow down because we are Jews. We only worship our God." Whereupon King Nebuchadnezzar says, "I'll give you another chance." But again, they refuse to bow down. The king is so angry, he has them thrown in the fiery furnace. Daniel 3 is preserved in two traditions, the MT and the Greek. These have both minor and major differences, the major ones being the fiery furnace, where the prayer of Azariah and the song of the three Jews are preserved in one edition and not the other. This changes the focus of the story. Scholars identify three types of genres that Daniel 3 can fall into. The court conflict tale tells of the plot structure of the fall and reinstatement of courtiers, the jealousy of rivals, and how they manipulated the king, who is described as emotionally mercurial. The wisdom didactic genre presents the story as that of characters contested and confirmed as heroes, even though that world at first seemed to be hostile to them, but eventually honored them for their virtue. Such a framework focuses on the virtues of the heroes and celebrates the inevitable happy ending that is the result of the heroes who deliberately choose to stay true to their virtues and values in a time of testing. There is a third genre, the martyr legend. This focuses on fidelity to God despite religious oppression and perhaps even death. True martyr stories, however, involve the martyr's salvation after death, because, of course, true martyrs actually die. Daniel 3 can fit into all of these genres, but it alters the conventions of said genres to contribute to its purposes. For example, in the MT, the author focuses on the Babylonian king. He is the only individual character, the others being lumped together, and he is the only one who changes. The king thus becomes the protagonist in the midst of stories about the education of the king. That, of course, being that God is king of all and grants rulership to those of his choosing, which is a very Jewish lesson. Because this was an originally independent story, it had to be adapted in order to be included in the Daniel stories. As such, references to Daniel's friends were added to Daniel 1 and 2 to make the transition easier, but no reference to Daniel occurs in this chapter. This brings up the question of when the story was written. Some Greek words for musical instruments may seem to set it in the Seleucid period, but these cultures intermingled long before then. Thus, political terminology may be the best marker we have. The heavy presence of Persian terms, along with the absence of Hellenistic ones, suggests that the story developed during the Persian Empire. This story also seems to make use of stories from the time of Nabonidus. FYI, Nabonidus reigned after Nebuchadnezzar. Nabonidus worshipped the god Sin and tried to encourage it, which met with opposition from the priests of Marduk, who was the god of Babylonia. These priests wrote a satire, which included Nabonidus making an image of Sin. In Daniel, Nabonidus is replaced with Nebuchadnezzar. Gee, does this statue story sound kind of familiar? The editor or editors of Daniel integrated this chapter into the book well. It continues the character development of the king, exploring how knowledge interplays with power and the negotiation of the diasporic identity. The story focuses on Nebuchadnezzar's perception of power and how that is dismantled. The reciprocity between power and knowledge also defines what the Chaldeans do in trying to manipulate the king by throwing the three Jews into the fiery furnace. The crucial scene has the king seeing something that nobody else can see and that changes his perception of everything. It should be noted that the mere telling of this story itself is an act to resist imperial rule. However, even fictional stories act on the real world, and as such, not only the king's perceptions of power are changed, but the perception of the readers. The Jews that are reading this would be assured that ultimately their God is in control. Most of us are familiar with the story. Let's just take it up where the king orders the three Jews to be thrown into the fiery furnace. After the Jews are thrown into the furnace, the perspective shifts to that of the king. According to the story, Nebuchadnezzar was flabbergasted. Although he knew they had thrown three into the furnace, he saw four walking around unharmed by the flames. At least, that's what he reported. In verse 25, the king says that this is a divine being, literally a quote-unquote son of God. While Christians interpret this as a pre-existent Jesus or a pre-flesh Jesus, the original audience most likely associated this with an angel. He identifies these three collectively as quote-unquote servants of the Most High God, a common epithet for the supreme deity in Hellenistic times. While the story opens with the spectacular scene of the golden image, It ends with the even more extraordinary scene of the three Jews being miraculously saved, a physical representation of a supreme deity's power. Well, friends, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and if you want to know when I come out with new content, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. All social media links are in the description, including my website link, my Patreon link, and my Teespring link. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you would rather get something for your money while still supporting this channel. I do have some merchandise both on my website and my Teespring store, so go check those out. Always keep learning and searching for the truth. Here are a few videos from my library. If you have not watched them, go ahead and watch them and tell me what you think. And please, don't take my word on anything. Research it for yourselves. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.